You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
The world's gone mad. This is the Free Stater. True conservatism, constitutionalism, may be in the minority now when it comes to the dialogue on political affiliation, but that doesn't mean we stop fighting. We fight for principles over party, values over politicians, and truth over feelings. You've entered a state of freedom. This is the Free Stater. From the plains of Kansas, home on the range, you're listening to the Free Stater here on the Lanterns Radio Network. I'm Ian Ballinger here from my humble abode in eastern Kansas. Well, it happened. And it, being that my Kansas Jayhawks lost in the round of 8, the Elite 8, in the NCAA Regional Finals. They lost to Oregon. Completely destroyed my bracket and left me generally heartbroken. It's no secret, me being a proud Kansan and me being a proud Jayhawk, for anyone that's followed my Twitter page for the last few weeks, I honestly believed KU would run away with the national title, especially considering how they played against UC Davis, against Michigan State, against Purdue. Honestly thought, hey, they're beating these teams by a margin of over 20 points per game. There's no way they don't win the championship. They lost by 14 points to Oregon in what many called one of the worst performances in Jayhawk tournament history, under Bill Self at least, which is a crying shame considering how successful of a year it was, winning your 13th straight conference regular season championship, Frank Mason III being winning an AP National Player of the Year. Just fantastic year, fantastic players on that team. I feel bad for Frank Mason. For any of you that follow sports, you'll know who Frank Mason is. He was just named AP National Player of the Year. Fantastic player. Played his heart out that Oregon game, and if there's any player that deserved to go out with a bang, that deserved to go out with a win, it was Frank Mason. So now, in the Final Four, you have Oregon going up against the Tar Heels of North Carolina, Gonzaga going up against the Gamecocks of South Carolina. And I don't know about you, but considering the way the state of North Carolina is being treated by the NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletics Association. Now, yes, the NCAA is technically a non-profit, right? However, even on their FAQ website, right, one of the top questions is, how can the NCAA make so much money and be considered a non-profit organization? And even on their website, they give the answer for the 2011-2012 sports season, the most recent year for which audited numbers are available, NCAA revenue was $871.6 million, most of which came from the rights agreement with Turner CBS Sports. NCAA revenue supports intercollegiate athletic opportunities on national and local levels. The total rights payment for the 2011-2012 season was $705 million, or 81% of all NCAA revenue. Most of the remaining 18% came from championships, mostly ticket and merchandising sales. Now they claim while the amount of revenue is large, little of the money is retained by the National Collegiate Athletics Association national office. About 96% is distributed directly to the Division I membership or to support championships or programs that benefit student athletes. But they don't name specifics. Regardless, that's not the discussion we're having at hand. The NCAA, and I'm not going to get into the linguistics of it or whatever, because I don't claim to be a genius when it comes to the intercollegiate sports world, especially the business side of it. I'm a sports fan first and foremost. At least on this subject. I'm a Christian first and foremost, but you get the idea. I'm a sports fan first and foremost when it comes to the topic of sports. I don't generally care about the business side of it. However, when an organization, when an association that has a membership of over 1,200 institutions and schools, conferences, and other associations that are conglomerated within it, and when universities and states such as the University of Kansas and North Carolina University and Duke University and South Carolina University and the University of Texas are all in a roundabout way sort of represented by the NCAA, and those schools and organizations themselves, to a lot of people, represents towns and cities and states throughout the United States. The NCAA, whether you think it's a good thing or not, we'll get into that, plays a pretty large role in sports in America. Maybe more so than professional leagues do. I know I'm not alone when I say that I think college sports are 10 times as entertaining as professional sports. Now, there's still entertainment value in professional sports. I think the NFL is a fantastic league. I think what the higher ups in the NFL are doing with all these rule changes, like they just made a rule change where, and I know I'm going off on a bunny trail. I always do this, but I'm trying to make a point here. The NFL with their stupid rule change that you can't jump on a field goal attempt. A defensive player can't jump over the special teams offensive line or whatever to block a field goal kick. I think that's a stupid rule. You're taking all the fun out of your game. Now, I understand safety concerns and all, and I understand that jumping a 250, 300-pound player jumping over the line is an injury waiting to happen. Let that consequence play itself out. Fine. But it's fun. It's fun. Sports is supposed to be fun. Sports is supposed to be competitive, and when organizations step in and just keep making rule change after rule change to keep their sport relevant, well, it takes the fun out of it. That's not what we're talking about today, though. What we're talking about today are the remaining teams in the NCAA March Madness tournament. Among those teams being North Carolina, Oregon, they will play tomorrow, and Gonzaga, South Carolina. They will also play tomorrow. That Final Four game is going on in Glendale, Arizona. It'll be broadcast on CBS, and even though I don't have a dog in the fight at this point, I will be watching. Why? Because I want those Tar Heels from North Carolina to take the title. Here's why. North Carolina is being pressured to change their bathroom bill by the NCAA lest the NCAA basically never host a tournament or any NCAA sanctioned event in the state of North Carolina again. This is from the New York Times. North Carolina's love of college sports spurred move to repeal bathroom law. I'd like to think I'm not alone. And listen, I'm from Kansas, okay? I grew up around college sports. I grew up around college basketball, mainly. College football. College baseball, even. And then Major League Baseball. Professional football with the Chiefs and the Royals. But growing up in Kansas, first team you ever hear about, especially if you live on the eastern side of the state, are the Kansas Jayhawks. Men's basketball. If there's no other state in the nation that loves college basketball, or that just loves basketball on any level as much as Kansas does, North Carolina, probably a second. Be this as it may, be it as high as my love of the sport may be, as much as I love sports, as much as I love basketball, kind of worries me that an organization like the NCAA is able to basically strong-arm a state into changing their laws. We care more about sports and entertainment than we do what's right. Reading from the New York Times article, The Fate of North Carolina's Controversial State Law, known simply as the Bathroom Bill, was shaped by events in another state as much as by the political maneuvering that played out this week among lawmakers at the State House in Raleigh. This article, by the way, is by Mark Tracy. It was published on Thursday the 30th. I encourage you to go to the New York Times and read the full article. Go to www.nytimes.com/buy. I'm sorry. See, I don't read the New York Times all that much. I do read it because I think news from different sources is important, even sources you may disagree with. However, that's besides the point. Go to www.nytimes.com/buy/Mark-Tracy to find all of his pieces, especially his most recent piece, being the one we're reading right now, North Carolina's love of college sports spurred move to repeal bathroom law. We continue. 2 weeks ago, the Duke and North Carolina men's basketball teams, in many ways the most powerful forces in the state, had to begin play in the NCAA tournament across state lines, across the state line in Greenville, South Carolina, rather than at a more hospitable venue closer to campus, because the NCAA moved all of its playoff games in several spots out of the state in response to the North Carolina law, also known as House Bill 2 or HB 2. And if you are following this story in the news, you more probably know, or you probably know it better off as HB2. The Tar Heels survived and have advanced to the Final Four in Glendale, but the Duke Blue Devils were upset in the second round by South Carolina in front of a pro Gamecocks crowd. Here's the thing. I hate Duke, so I'm okay with them losing. No, but in all seriousness, look, the NCAA moved it, right? So the legitimacy of Duke's loss, whether you think, had they played in this, within their state lines, or had they played closer to their campus, whether do you think it should be legitimate or not, look, we could play that game all day. The fact is that Duke lost. Kansas played 40 miles, 50 miles, something like that, away from their home court in front of a pro Jayhawk crowd. And they lost by 14. You could say it was an off night. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that they lost. So, whether Duke played in North Carolina, South Carolina, whatever, The fact is that they lost. And they lost to a team that played better than them that night. That's just the way the tournament goes. So that's not the discussion we're having. But the NCAA isn't the first organization to do something like this. The NBA also withdrew the All-Star game from Charlotte, the article reads. And the pain inflicted by sports officials had intensified and was about to get worse. The NCAA recently announced that this week it would begin to make decisions on where to hold the national championship events through 2022. Now, Mac McCorkle, if I'm pronouncing his name right, a former state Democratic consultant who is now the professor of public policy at Duke University, said, "I think the NCAA's view had become a barometer for people judging the economic development impact. It locked in people's view that this is a mess, and the way we would know the mess had cleared up is the NCAA." Again, look, here's the thing. It's hard, man, because he makes partly a good point by bringing up. See, it is a mess, and it's hard. Like I agree with the whole. If you were born a male, go into the men's room. If you were born a female, go in the women's room. I agree with that. I'm not talking about that's what the mess is. The mess is this whole. It's the way the news has handled it. It's the way the politicians have handled it, and it's the way the media has handled it. It's the way voters are handling it. It's just being misunderstood completely. When he says the economic development impact, he's right to a point. For a lot of states, sports is a huge economic draw. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. It's good in the sense that, hey, free market, support that. It's bad in the sense that we're letting an organization like the NCAA dictate, basically, how our states are going to behave. What was it? Kansas has a bathroom law similar to this. And who was it? It was California school. I wasn't even going to read on this part. But the state of Kansas has a bathroom bill or something like this, similar to North Carolina. And a university over in California straight up said, "We're not going to schedule you. You can't go to Kansas now if you're a public university." That's stupid. They have every right to do it, but it's stupid. I'm going to read on in the article a bit. The law's economic impact goes well beyond college sports events. An Associated Press study released this week found that House Bill 2, HB 2, could cost North Carolina nearly $4 billion over 12 years because of canceled events. Could is the keyword here. I'm unquoting here. Could is the keyword here. Because it's worth noting, I was watching Louder with Crowder on Thursday, and one of them brought up a good point. I think it was Not Gay Jared that brought up this point, in that, look what happened with Chick-fil-A. Maybe it wasn't Not Gay Jared, maybe it was Crowder's brother, I don't know. It was one of the producers on a show. And they basically said something like, look what happened with Chick-fil-A. Everyone thought that Chick-fil-A boycott was going to ruin Chick-fil-A. It didn't. Because principled people ended up going out and supporting Chick-fil-A because they recognized, hey, well, this is stupid. This boycott is stupid. And I believe in what Chick-fil-A's owner, CEO, or whatever is doing. Fine, let's go support Chick-fil-A. I think the same thing could happen with North Carolina. Let's continue with the article. But before we continue with the article, sorry about that. Before we continue with the article, I just want to make the point. Voting with your wallet's a big thing. I'm not a fan of boycotts, right? So I'm not going to boycott the NCAA because I like the teams that play in the NCAA. I think boycotts are stupid because it's like it's a hive mind mentality, and I'm not a huge fan of the hive mind mentality. If I want to partake in a food, for example, Kellogg's, there was that whole Kellogg's boycott. And I don't even remember what that boycott was for. I'm sure it had something to do with like gay marriage or something like that, whatever. But a lot of Christian groups were coming out saying, boycott Kellogg's. No more Kellogg's cereal. No more Pop-Tarts. And I was all like, well, I don't want to buy the knockoff brand. Maybe I want to eat Kellogg's cereal. I don't have to agree with them. I can think they're stupid. I can think their company is run by like idiots or whatever, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy their breakfast cereal or Raisin Bran or whatever the heck. I don't even know what Kellogg's makes. What do they make, like Lucky Charms, or is that Post? See, we're on the internet, so I know if I get that wrong, somebody's going to call it. Now, General Mills makes Lucky Charms, so there you go. What does Kellogg's make? Kellogg's makes Pop-Tarts, I know that. They make Corn Flakes, but nobody eats Corn Flakes. Cheez-Its. That would suck. I thought Nabisco made Cheez-Its. Whatever. See, that's the thing. People want to boycott products. Look at me, I'm politically involved. I don't even know what products these companies make. North Carolina. Really sucks that people feel pressured by the NCAA to change their state laws and state culture and et cetera, la-di-da-da-da, over basketball. I know it brings in a lot of money. It's an economic risk to not bow down to the NCAA overlords. I understand that it's kind of the way things are and the way things have to be. It just sucks that the NCAA has that much power over political decisions. Let's continue with the article. The Atlantic Coast Conference, which includes 4 universities in North Carolina, announced in September that it would move all neutral site championships for the academic year out of the state because of the law. I didn't know that. I think that's stupid too. For gosh sakes, the ACC is practically based in North Carolina. I know, listen, okay. Oh, what the heck am I even talking about? It is based in North Carolina. Their headquarters, the ACC's, the Atlantic Coast Conference headquarters, are based in Greensboro, North Carolina. This virtue signaling, this grandstanding, this trying to be relevant, this trying to appeal to the social justice warrior crowd, it's stupid. Let's continue. The ACC's commissioner, John Swafford, said in a statement that the repeal could reopen the discussion with the ACC Council of Presidents regarding neutral site conference championships being held in North Carolina. He added that those discussions would take place in the near future. Now, the NCAA must decide how to respond. The organization said last year that it removed championships events from the states to assure a safe, healthy, discrimination-free atmosphere. This law did not cause a discriminative atmosphere. It wasn't an unsafe atmosphere. If anything, saying if you're a biological male, you're going into the men's room instead of the ladies' room creates a more safe environment. It's not the NCAA's job to dictate political moves. It's the NCAA's job. I'm not even going to say it's the NCAA's job to necessarily legislate basketball. It's the NCAA's job to be an association in which under division, or not even just Division I schools, that college schools play under. Earlier this week, Scott Dupree, the executive director of the Greater Raleigh Sports Alliance, which supported repeal, posted on Twitter a statement saying that the NCAA had set a deadline for the repeal, that being Thursday around noon. Uh-oh. Well, that passed already, guys. So we're kind of in limbo here. We don't really know what the NCAA is going to do. If the NCAA says, okay, McCorkle said, that's probably going to be the litmus test. Again, I just think that's sad that we're letting a sports organization dictate how a state behaves. Much of the NCAA's leadership is gathered in the Phoenix area for the men's Final Four. The Final Four is set to take place Saturday and Monday at the University of Phoenix Stadium on Thursday afternoon. The NCAA's president, Mark Emmert, is scheduled to hold a news conference, and an NCAA spokeswoman declined to comment late Wednesday on the day's developments. We move on in the article to another act passed by a state that wasn't really received well by our NCAA overlords. When Indiana passed the so-called Religious Freedom Restoration Act 2 years ago, the NCAA, which is based in Indianapolis, Indiana, was hosting the Final Four there that weekend. They immediately opposed it. Mr. Emmert's lobbying against the law was credited with helping to coax an amendment that satisfied some critics. See, I just don't understand why the NCAA feels the need to get involved in the politicking process. You're a sports organization. You're a sports association. What are you doing? The NCAA has begun to require, this according to the New York Times also, they're starting to require sites bidding to host future tournament events to detail their local laws that discriminate against participants or spectators as part of the application process. That's the quote from the New York Times. What I'd like to say is that it's not discrimination. Nobody is saying a transgender person can't go to the bathroom. Now, I'm going to echo what I heard a commentator on the Blaze Network say. If anything, all of this transgender and whatever bathroom they want to go into talk, if anything, this entire debate has only made me want single-person bathrooms or single toilet bathrooms. Just the family restroom. Not the communal, everybody go in, urinals lined up all over the wall, stalls, one big restroom room. Nah, let's just do away with that. Let's just have single bathrooms. Single bathrooms. A room with a toilet and a sink, you go out, and that's it. Just divide off the rooms. And then you can go into whatever bathroom you want. You can go into whatever bathroom your heart so desires, and we can get past this stupid talk. Because it is stupid. Children dying overseas, Christians, Muslims who aren't Muslim enough being killed by ISIS in the Middle East, gays being thrown off roofs. Oh, but our biggest worry in the 21st century, our biggest worry must be, I can't go to the bathroom I want to go to. And so, here we are today with the Final Four in Glendale, Arizona, where the Gonzaga Bulldogs and the South Carolina Gamecocks will play for the right to compete against the winner of the North Carolina-Oregon game. And, not having a dog in the fight at this point, I sure do hope that North Carolina takes the title. Why? Because it would be so sweet to see the NCAA have to give North Carolina a trophy on national TV, especially after how they treated their state. I'm Ian Ballinger. This is The Free Stater. We'll be right back here on the Lanterns Radio Network.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Hey everyone, we do not have sponsors, and by we, I mean me. I don't have any sponsors. So I want to take this time to tell you about some projects that are always at the top of my list and in the back of my mind. They're fantastic projects. The NazareneFund.org. For several years, ISIS has invaded peaceful communities in the Middle East and painted the Nazarene symbol on the door of people they seek to convert, extort, or murder. While ISIS uses the Nazarene symbol to symbolize death, we use it to symbolize life. Mercury One is a U.S.-based humanitarian aid and education nonprofit organization that established and administers the Nazarene Fund. The Nazarene Fund aids in the restoration of Christians and other persecuted religious minorities in their communities who have been targeted by ISIS for their faith. I want to make it clear, I am not endorsed by Mercury One. They have not paid me to say any of this, and I'm not directly affiliated with them in any way. Be that as it may, I think that what they're doing is extremely important, and I want to share it with you. So rather than push a sponsor for you right now, in large part because I don't have one, I want to share their mission with you and direct you to where you can go to help. Now, in 2014, the Christian community in Syria and Iraq were facing the greatest calamity in its 2,000-year history. The Islamic State, ISIS, exploded out of Raqqa, Syria, the capital of its self-proclaimed Islamic State. In a lightning strike that surprised the world, ISIS forces captured Mosul, Iraq's second-largest city, and all of nearby Nineveh plain, the traditional homeland of the region's Christian community. What followed was a campaign of extortion, murder, and displacement not only of the Christians, but of other ethno-religious minorities in the region. By 2015, a population of 3 million people was reduced to only 300,000. Most of them displaced from their homes and fleeing to other countries. In August of that year, Glenn Beck took the stage, and the Restoring Unity rally in Birmingham, Alabama, declared the situation for it was genocide. Mercury One donors immediately responded, and the Nazarene Fund was launched with the goal of rescuing 400 families. No one at the time that realized that a movement was born, and over the course of the next 18 months, Mercury One has far exceeded its original goal, and the numbers speak for themselves. 1,290 families rescued, 5,202 people saved. Fortunately, the tactical situation is changing. Coalition forces have liberated most of Nineveh. Mosul will soon be under Allied control. An attack on Raqqa is imminent, and Mercury One is shifting its focus from rescuing to rebuilding and restoring the lives and communities of these persecuted people. We're so happy to shift this focus from providing immediate basic care for individuals to rebuilding and restoring communities by funding projects that will have a future impact on health and education for years to come. Mercury One funded projects include a medical clinic in Lebanon, a medical clinic in Greece, school in Beirut, Lebanon, a school in Athens, Greece, a mobile trauma center in Acre, Iraq, a trauma center in Al-Qash, Iraq, a community center in Nitra, Slovakia, and a transport van in Brazil. As their mission continues to evolve both internationally and at home, please continue to support all of Mercury One's efforts by donating now. To donate, go to mercuryone.org or thenazarenefund.org. It's a great cause. They need your help. If you're able to donate, I encourage you to donate. I encourage you to go, again, thenazarenefund.org, and donate if you can. God bless. Laus Deo. I want to talk to you about the 912 Project. Now, this is something we've discussed on the show a lot. And I mean a lot, and it's something we're going to discuss on the show a lot more. At the origin of America, our founding fathers built this country on 28 powerful principles. These principles were culled from all over the world and from centuries of great thinkers. We've distilled the original 28 down to 9 basic principles. And if you believe in at least 7 of them, then we have something in common. They've also added 12 values that represent the qualities of those who founded our country. If we can all live by these, we believe America can get back on course again. Now, their advisory board consists of some amazing conservatives and amazing people. Yvonne Donnelly, Maria Acosta, Michael Pelka from The Blaze, Stephanie Scruggs, Mimi Steele, Aaron Wilson, Jason Roberts from NetFusion Studios. All these people promoting the 912 Project, and I encourage you, this valued listener that we have here on the Lanterns Radio Network, to go to the 912-project.com to find these principles and values on their webpage. Share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter. We're trying to start the 912 movement again. At least I am. And again, I want to make it clear, not endorsed by these, but by this organization. I am not sponsored by them, but I believe that their mission is important. And what is their mission? The 912 Project is a volunteer-based, nonpartisan movement focusing on building and uniting our communities back to the place we were on September 12th, 2001, the day after America was attacked. The day after America was attacked, we were not obsessed with political parties, the color of skin, or what religion you practiced. We were united as Americans, standing together to protect the greatest nation ever created. Our goal is to bring us back to that same feeling of togetherness again. Our mission is to inspire individuals to connect with their communities through education, service, and dedication to the 9 principles and the 12 values to which we have committed. To find these principles and values, go to the 912project.com. That's the 912-project.com. The 912-project.com. Back. Cassie Dillon from Lone Conservative recently wrote, start over. Welcome back. The Free Stater here on the Lanterns Radio Network. I'm Ian Ballinger. Cassie Dillon, founder of the Lone Conservative. She's a correspondent for Campus Reform, contributor for The Hill, Daily Wire, and Red Alert. Really awesome young conservative. She wrote she wrote a piece for The Hill entitled "Tommy Lahren, Conservative Pundits Like Us Need to, Read." That's playing off of Tommy in an earlier interview saying, "I don't read, don't like to read." Get to that article in a bit, but before we do, I want to introduce somebody, not interviewing him, but want to introduce his music. It's the music we've been playing as our bumper intros for the last several weeks. He goes by Home. Don't know what his real name is at all. He hasn't told me. But he has given me permission to use his music. And for that, I think he's a fantastic guy. Don't know about you. And he makes fantastic music. If you don't know him, check him out on SoundCloud. You can find him at soundcloud.com/home-2001. You can also find him on Facebook at facebook.com/homemusicofficial. Guy's awesome. Don't know his political affiliation at all. Don't really care. He makes awesome music. He's a great artist. he kind of delves. I remember reading an interview he did where he said, "I don't do vaporwave," but that's kind of what his music has fallen into. That's kind of the genre his music has fallen into, and that's kind of the style of music this show has. My show has kind of taken, if you will. I think that whole 90s vibe, that whole early 2000s vibe, that whole vaporwave vibe, and for those is awesome. And for those of you that don't know what vaporwave is, here's a snippet from a documentary by Mr. Amazing on YouTube. I'm going to point you to where you can find him. Go to youtube.com, search Mr. Amazing, and look for his documentary, Vaporwave Genre Redefined.
About 2 years ago that I was first introduced to Vaporwave. It was an off-chance click, a small little tap of the finger, and because of it I saw something that made me say to myself, with ideals of grandeur comparable to those of the colonists, for the first time coming into contact with the Native Americans of old. After watching the video by the essayist behind This Exists, I remember first listening to that one song that everyone knows but just refers to as Macintosh Plus 420. I thought it was pretty shit. I remember listening to Blank Banshee's album with a picture of Laura Croft on the front and thinking to myself that it was just some run-of-the-mill techno. I cleared my history after that, for different reasons. But after that I didn't really hear much about Vaporwave for another year. I always loved the 80s. Something about it touched me. The roaring synths, the neon visuals, I always thought they were pretty rad. I'd always been raised listening to 80s music, and a lot of it was staples in my parents' house for the longest time. So when a friend sent me a link to St. Pepsi's Private Caller in 2015...
And if anyone doesn't know what that is, that's a song. Really good. It's just a cool... man, I sound like such a loser talking about this, but I want to pay homage to it because... Home, the guy that makes this music, some of this music, was nice enough to let me use this music for this show. Kind of want to pay homage to this genre because I think it's a cool genre of music. It's not like, what is it? It's not like dubstep or whatever. I'm not a fan of dubstep. It's like atmospheric, kind of. It's that type of music you can sit back and you can relax to, do homework to, write to, whatever. It's just relaxing music. So I kind of want to pay homage to it.
Something clicked. I remember that musical frisson I felt as I closed my eyes and entered the faux 80s dystopia that the song evoked. I listened to 5 albums over the next day. I was hooked. Moment I realized, wait, this isn't the same video. I complete contrast to the multifaceted nature of the genre. While it in and of itself in terms of audio can appeal to anyone, from freaky funk junkies to those tacitly touting tendencies toward easy listening, there's unity in the visual. We see VHS and 80s visuals, deep purples, pretentious circle jerks, fluorescent yellows and greens, from even the most traditional vaporwave albums to the most avant-garde. And degrading them, utilizing traditionally 80s aesthetics and turning them on their head, inverting their meaning in the process. Instead of the expertly composed synth tracks of Time Cop 1983, Vaporwave greets us with music stolen from decades ago, warping and eroding away at it, almost to say, hey man, the future sucks. As Vaporwave continued to develop, this overarching theme remained constant across all subgenres, as the consumerist culture of the 80s came to be associated with Vaporwave.
And I think that's kind of the appeal to this kind of music is like, and maybe that's the appeal for me. It's like, it's nostalgic, It's got that old, grainy, gritty VHS feel to it. Especially if you watch a lot of the music videos that are associated with this music. They put that VHS overlay on it. It's got that nostalgic 80s feel, and it harkens back to what is perceived as a simpler time. Obviously, as we look back on it now, the 80s and 90s were not a simpler time by any means, but it invokes those feelings still, especially considering the state of our culture today, where we have college students that want to silence speech, and we have college professors that encourage it. So yeah, I think it's a really nostalgic and memorable genre. It's not just dubstep loud noises. It's cool.
Most prominently future funk. When we look at the music videos for St. Pepsi's Private Caller, Cherry Pepsi, and Enjoy Yourself, we see exactly this. A visual narrative based around the product that brings about energy and happiness in the actors, interleaving beautiful commercials with often ethereal music to create a concurrent dichotomous appeal to pathos, one which implores us to indulge in the consumerist culture of the 80s and 90s in the visual, while at the same time exhorting us to reject it for its decadence in the oral.
And then here's another quick YouTube video documentary by Wolf, called Vaporwave, A Brief History.
Tumblr and Reddit in the early 2010s. It distinctively has no set location as to where it originated, as it started online, making it the first genre of music to be completely globalized.
Which, in of itself, you admit is kind of cool. I think there's a lot of good and bad on the internet, you know? I think this is one of the... Look, to be honest, the way I see it, the internet is just a unrestricted medium of art. It's kind of the reason I don't like the idea of the government getting involved in the internet. Kind of like they did with TV and radio. Government killed TV and radio. The internet brought it back.
Inspired from funk design, Roman busts, a fascination with tropical landscapes, Japanese culture, and of course, the redistribution of old 80s elevator music inspired from funk, new age, and smooth jazz. This all began in 2010 when two seemingly random albums with two distinctively different styles merged together to create what we now call Vaporwave. An experimental electronic artist, Daniel Lopatin, known by his pseudonym 103.Never, released a humorous mixtape online under the alter ego Chuck Person with Echo Jams 1, a series of repetitive 80s hits that were slowed down and spliced apart, usually repeating themselves on the same chorus throughout the entire song. It was described by Lopatin to be just a simple joke that was something he did just for fun. Regardless, it became a small internet sensation.
And you know what? I'm probably weird in that sense. There's a comment on this video that says, I don't really care if people think Vaporwave is just a fad or a meme. I actually like it. I feel like I understand it. It's music. It's not just music, but a feeling. It's like a feeling. If you spend a lot of time, or if you did spend a lot of time in malls or watching these random public television shows in the late 80s and 90s, you can probably share a similar sentiment. And I think that's why a lot of people like this kind of music. You know, I don't mean to sound like a millennial here when I say, this is the music revolution. I don't think it's like that at all. I like all music. I like classic rock. I like 80s rock. I like country, for God. I love country music. Maybe we'll even do country music as an intro to the show sometime. The whole reason I wanted to share this is because I think it's a fantastic genre of music that you got to check out. And the reason I'm sharing that is because the guy that provided his music for this show delves into that genre, whether he wants to admit it or not. Again, his name is Home. You can find him on SoundCloud.com/home-2001 or on Facebook.com/homemusicofficial. This is one of his most popular songs that he's ever done. This is Resonance by Home. Now, Resonance by Home, before we end the show today, I want to get to this Hill article by Cassie Dillon of Lone Conservative. If you haven't been to Lone Conservative, by the way, check it out. It's a fantastic, fantastic site. LoneConservative.com. Go to LoneConservative.com. They actually have an awesome article on there that I've yet to share anywhere, but totally going to. Sharing it with you right now. The Backlash to Politicizing Sports by Daniel McLean. Check that article out on LoneConservative.com. Awesome thing about that is that's kind of what we just talked about on the show here. I mean, basically, it's not directly referencing the NCAA issue that's going on right now, but more so just saying that I should be able, and this is a quote from his article, I should be able to watch my teams disappoint me on the field without having to witness their misleading and misinformed drive to social activism, and he's totally right. Check out his article on loneconservative.com, that article by Daniel McLean. This from The Hill by Cassie Dillon, founder of Lone Conservative. Tommy Lahren. Conservative pundits like us need to, read. Reading from her article. Conservakids, as Town Hall's Kurt Schlichter terms them, use their youthful energy to spread a conservative message to other young people in particular, and fight the misconception that conservatism is incompatible with younger generations. Conservakids are fond of humor and creative ways to convey their message to a young, easily distracted, oh, isn't that the truth, audience, but the mediums they can use can have serious trade-offs. Social media is an easy breeding ground for short viral videos by popular commentators, which are often flashy and fun, but can also leave out necessary arguments and substance. For instance, the Final Thoughts videos by Tommy Lahren, former commentator on The Blaze, amassed millions of views thanks to the convenience of the share/retweet button. Millennials enjoy her provocative sound bites and flashy graphics, but it's important to properly balance the entertainment and the pursuit of knowledge. As a conservative kid myself, Cassie continued, I'm well aware of how powerful a popular Twitter page or an entertaining viral video can be to advance a cause. People like me, who without social media would otherwise not have a platform, now have the ability to influence others in seconds. It's important to push out a message, but more importantly to ensure that we don't allow our own arrogance or vanity to taint our work. Millennial-age journalists and commentators must learn, read, and listen before promoting agendas and talking points we may not fully understand. Continuing on in the article, in an interview with the Daily Caller, Tommy Lahren said, I'm not a reader. I don't like to read long books. I like to read news, so I couldn't tell you that there was a book that I read that changed my life. Cassie Dillon continued in her article saying, if the conservative movement's future includes leaders who don't read and cannot even recommend a good book to others, then I am fearful about the future of conservatism. To assume that the news alone, or others' opinions of it on social media, is sufficient to understanding conservative thought, or how the world has operated in the past and in the present, is immature and dangerous. Aspiring conservative millennials look up to people like Tommy Lahren as role models. Such a position of influence should not be taken lightly. As young people, we lack wisdom and will gain it by admitting this and learning from our own experiences. In order to prove ourselves worthy of the platform we hold, we must compensate for our youth by actively seeking knowledge. I'm going to stop there. I agree with her. I'm stopping there because I want you to go to The Hill and read this article for yourself. It's a fantastic article. Go to thehill.com. Look for Cassie Dillon's Tommy Lahren, conservative pundits like us need to, read. She makes a fantastic point. If we're not being intellectually honest, if we're not seeking out the truth, not my truth, and if you don't like it, tough, as Tommy Lahren said on Twitter, but the absolute truth, which is the only truth that matters. The truth. The truth. If we're not seeking that out, this movement means nothing. So let's be the truth seekers. Let's be the generation that seeks truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And that's all the time we have for today. And until next week, continue to read, continue to educate yourself, trust no one, question with boldness, and seek out the truth. I'm Ian Ballinger. This is the Free Stater from the plains of Kansas, here on the Lanterns Radio Network.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz. For great radio, get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.